So to continue with these GURPS, how would you run a superhero campaign?
Yeah, we're running a superhero campaign right now, though we are playing in it. We're not actually the
Yeah,
game master
no, Matt
for it.
is. If you've heard us talk about Matt.
Matt was on our podcast back in, I think, November. Yeah,
ish, somewhere
in
around there.
December. Anyway, so the nice thing about a superhero game is the point system makes a lot of sense at that
Yes,
point.
it does.
Because at that point, you just give a number of points. You let them know how many points of disadvantages they can have. A good rule of thumb is 33%. You can go as high as 50%, but then you have some kind of, as somebody once said in our comments, like you have like a Watchmen type of level of dysfunction. I haven't seen The Boys yet on Amazon Prime, but from what I've seen, it's probably somewhat similar as theirs. Like your superheroes aren't, they're not lawful good Supermans by any stretch of the imagination. They're just flawed human beings that have the ability to like rip concrete up with their bare hands.
Yeah.
So great. Good luck. So you can run depending on how I don't know how nitty gritty corrupt you want your heroes to be. It will allow how many percentage of points you want to give to their disadvantages, right? So easiest way to do this is I would start by figuring out what I don't want to allow. And the nice thing is because of the point buys, you don't have to worry about a Superman.
No.
Like, I don't know, Superman might be a 3,000 point character or something crazy because he has no flaw, no disadvantages for the most part, except for kryptonite. But it's like an ultra rare substance, so like, it might be 10 points.
Ultra rare substance that everybody has.
Only rich people have, right? Like Bruce Wayne and Lex. I mean, but for the most part, like the street crime guys don't. Like the street criminals aren't shooting him with kryptonite bullets. Like it's the government facilities that are doing it.
It depends on what rendition of Superman you get into.
I don't want to get into that. Point is, you have a system where if you only give them 200 points, then there's no way they can even create, like, you have a Wolverine shirt on it. There's no way they can create Wolverine. Because Wolverine, like, is easily a 500-point character.
So just for his fast healing alone, that's like 200 points.
Yeah, because I got a smaller version of it in our game, and it's 100 points. And it's like a 1 hit point a second, which is nowhere near what
yours
his is.
One...
One hit point a minute, I think, is what
one hit point every 10 seconds.
That's what it is, yeah. But anyway, his is ridiculous. So you heal a hit
point around. Wolverine is healing 10 hit points around. And
the problem is which Wolverine, right? I mean, because you got Wolverine that apparently if you just set his body in a petri dish, enough of it was there that it'll spring back up.
That's kind of the hard part with...
all the movies and everything.
Or the comic books. The power level between Golden Age and Silver Age of the same characters is drastically different.
When I was reading comic books as a child, Wolverine had a cool healing factor. When the movies from Fox came out, like in the early 2000s, late 90s, whatever it was, Wolverine's his superpower had grown by 10 times because he was healing stuff like as it was happening, and that just wasn't what was in the... Anyway, it does not matter. You could easily do a superhero game. I would argue there are, in the GURPS rulebook, they actually have a little symbol for superhero type of scenarios, so you can just tell people to do that. If you want to allow aliens, because, hey, it's Marvel and DC, why not? You can allow the alien icon to be in there as well, and at that point, you can kind of get almost anything you want. So, really, the superhero campaign as a whole is really actually suited really well to GURPS. I do know that if you wanted to do something that was specifically for that, I haven't played this game at all, but it's from Robin D. Laws and Kenneth Haidt, who, again, have a great podcast called, what is that called? Ken and Robin talk about stuff. Yeah, that was almost planned. Anyway, Ken and Robin talk about stuff. And they're really good game designers. They've created a game called Mutant City Blues. And as you can imagine, given the name of it, it's about mutants. So it's kind of your X-Men go-to if you want. I think it's based... In fact, I think most of their stuff is based on their gaming system, which is... it's pretty decent. It's the stuff that Night's Black Agents is based on.
Which I actually like that system. So
it basically, if you have a skill, you only can have up to 3 skill points in a skill. If you have 1 skill point, you can do like 80% of everything in that skill.
The idea would be...
You never have to roll for it.
So taking into, like, let's just use car mechanic as a thing.
Yeah, you're a mechanic.
So 1 dot means you can work in an automotive body
Across the
shop
board.
with no problem.
Yeah.
2 dots is you are like the go-to person for any weird problem for like
and
your
you could,
state.
and you could also be the foremost premier like Ferrari.
Yes.
Like you could build a Ferrari from the ground up.
Yeah.
Without
3
a manual.
is you like invented cars. Is the idea.
You're one of the top 4 people in the world or your area that know about cars. So, like, yeah, you don't. It's not like you can just build a Lamborghini from the ground up. You go talk to Lamborghini to tell them like, hey, this part has problems and you could fix it by doing X. And I've already steel 3D printed this and proven it. It's that level. So.
Yep.
Gurps is great for this because you have like a great a number of things you can do with it. But if you're not feeling Gurps for whatever reason, check out Mutant City Blues. We'll have a link to it in the description, and then you can check that one out too. But overall, the superhero genre is really not that hard to get into. It's kind of fun to play.
Yeah.
I think the hardest thing about running a superhero game, though, from just in general, is that you're going to have to create a big bad.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have to have your Magneto for your Xavier, your Professor X. Sorry, I was really big into X-Men, so most of my stuff's going to be X-Men. So if you're an Avengers fan, like from the comic book days, there's not much I can do for you.
I can help a little bit with Marvel.
Thanos,
with
Thanos
DC,
is Thanos is different, right? Because he's like Thanos is I'm ending the universe type of level. I'm talking about like the guy who like the Doctor Doom for the Fantastic Four level, right? Where you're the Joker to the Batman, the Bane to the Batman type of level, not the the world ender in Rick and Morty, like that's not that level. So anyway, the point is you have to come up with some sort of big bad and some sort of storyline around it, which of course can be the hardest part about doing the superhero genre in general.
Yes.
So again, like all things, I'll put it this way. Since most of you are not going to publish your work, I would just unabashedly steal from the movies, comic books, and other sources that you have.
Definitely.
So if you love The Watchmen and you want to see what would happen if you did like a Watchmen and you then cross-mutated it with X-Men with a little bit of like Tony Stark, do it.
Yeah.
Right?
And I mean, the other thing with Super doesn't mean that you should go down this route if you're wanting a more serious game, but superheroes always have those cliches, and it's always really easy to riff on that. So one of the things I recommend, so Matt had a communist-like thing to go against one of the things that we were in our world, and then you created their name instead of what Matt was going to go with, which is the Red Scare.
The Red Scare. I thought it was a great name for a communist party. So anyway,
if you have something like that, just go with it, honestly.
Well, that's back to some of our other conversations we've had here, which is if your player, you want a yes and for things in your game where it doesn't make a bit of difference. So if you're fumbling with a name for a character and one of your players comes up with a name that's not like offensive, rude, and something you don't want to call the guy, stuff I won't go into like examples here, then run with it. Right? So, like, they're like, oh, they're a communist superhero party. I'm like, oh, they're like, what, the Red Scare? And he was like, sure, they'll be the Red Scare because that's just funny, right?
Yes.
It's not offensive. It's, I mean, and honestly, we were playing in a game right around the 50s. So the Red Scare is a really good term around the 1950s in America. So, yeah, so I totally agree with if you didn't come up with somebody's name and somebody has a decent name or a funny name for their superhero that's not like going to ruin everything. Like that's Toadface. You're like, okay, no, he's not going by Toadface. I mean, there is the Marvel character, the Toad, which is lame, but it's like, he didn't go by Toadface. I mean, like, he's ugly. Okay.
Yeah. Superheroes is this fun thing of improv is kind of this fun thing that goes hand in hand with it of. So
your superhero game's probably mostly, and again, it depends on how dark you want to get, right? Because are you setting, and I would set the tone, like, hey, are we doing a game that's like Deadpool, which is offensive and funny? Or are we doing like a
serious, like a Dark Horse?
A Dark Horse, like a Aliens versus Predator type of thing? Are we doing a Punisher game, right? What are we doing? Or are we going to be a little bit more jovial with it and do like an Avengers where there's some humor, like a Spider-Man's even worse, where it's like, pun, right? Yes. Always punning.
or is it campy and kind of cheesy like the Adam West era
Yeah.
Batman?
That's right. 1960s Batman. I mean, if you're going to do that, I would honestly suggest you print out like POWs and BAMs and stuff. And like as your parent, no, seriously. And as your players are like, we're going to hit that guy, you're like,
Pow!
pow, you know, because I mean, if you're going to go campy, just go campy,
campy.
right? I mean, even find the Batucci music and just play it during one of the scenes. I mean, like, just go for it because that's funny, right? Because in my
Yes.
opinion, games should be memorable.
Yes.
And so a memorable game could be serious, a memorable game could be
Well-
funny, a memorable game could be off the rails,
Well-
but you know,
What is RPG gaming? It's
it's role-playing.
entertainment.
Right, exactly.
So if
Right.
you know,
Why am I doing this
If it's-
instead of
yeah.
playing video games right now? Or why
Yeah.
am I doing this instead of hanging out at the bar?
why am I
Why am
spending
I-
time out of my day
Right.
to show up here and be bored?
Exactly. And I'm not.
Now,
So-
it doesn't mean that it has to be hilarious where
No.
you're laughing all over the
No,
place or
but-
campy,
Yes.
but it has to be engaging.
Yeah, a good spy game and a good spy movie is not funny, right? I mean, that's why,
Mm-hmm.
like, if you look at movies, there's the comedy. So if I want to laugh, I go watch comedy. There's adventure. If I want to, like, kind of have some good, you know,
Yeah.
good action-y stuff, I'll go do an action adventure. If I want suspense or thriller, I'll do that. If I want to be scared or something like that,
Mhm.
I'll go do horror.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all these things you could do, and any one of these is in your game. I mean, you could do a horror superhero game, for goodness sake. It's really
Yeah.
easy to do. You know, just grab those elements of horror and you stick it in there. So even though they have superpowers, like, it doesn't necessarily matter because the thing they're coming up against can negate those or use them against
Mhm.
them. I mean, there's so many different ways to do it. I would just say that, like, set the tone.
Yeah.
Just say, we're going to be playing Avengers Endgame style. So there's going to be some jokes cracked here and there, and that's okay. We're going to be serious occasionally. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's going to be a mix. Or we're going to do Watchmen. It's going to be dark. It's going to be gritty. Are you guys okay with that? You know, so
Mhm.
really you just know your players. So whatever they would be comfortable with is what you should run.
Yeah.
And what you're comfortable running yourself. So I think with that,
I think we're
done. So
Yeah.
thank you guys very much. If you like this video, please like the video, and we will see you the next time.